Hello, welcome to the Art and Hustle Gallery of Conversations. Welcome back here day after your 77th birthday, Captain Schiavo.
Don't remind me.
Oh, you're just gonna be younger every single day from now on.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I had gone to a party the day before, garden party, and
Hmm.
we had a perfect weather and everything else. And there are lots of people there who are younger than a bit younger. They ranged in age, but there's no question that among the older folk, I was probably in the best shape because I could walk. I didn't have a cane.
Yeah.
I didn't have bad knees, bad ankles, bad hips, you know. And my face isn't wrinkly, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's
You're
kind of
young as your mind is, I feel like,
well,
right?
they say, oh, age is just a number, and that's I know what they mean by that. I mean, most of us who are of advanced ages, we still feel like I still feel like I did when I was 26 or
Yeah.
27, not
Yeah.
77. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My body doesn't let me do those things I did at 27, but I mean, like that's why I don't surf anymore,
Mhm.
even though I might want to.
Yeah.
But that's the way it goes.
But,
So,
but yeah, like as long as your mind is still active and you're still in like social circles or even doing podcasts, like as long as your mind is still active and you're interacting with people, you still remain like, you know, young
well,
at heart.
that's true. I mean, I think one of the things that really is the worst thing that people can do is, especially when they retire, is to not interact with people.
Yeah.
I even during the pandemic. I mean, I had Zoom calls, I had telephone calls. So it was one of those things where, uh, Plus my involvement with the library keeps me, on the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And I still read whatever. You have to do those kinds of things.
Yeah,
So
and it's really important. The funny thing is that I had just finished watching a show, like a little documentary movie that someone had made. And I think I forgot the exact name of it, but it was basically kind of like this young man. Well, I mean, he's probably like 30 or so, or late 20s maybe. And he did a documentary with his kind of like his grandmother, but it was just a woman that took care of him when he was younger.
uh-huh.
And during the pandemic, he ended up moving in with her to take care of her because like everybody didn't want to come by.
Sure.
She needed care. And so he decided, like, how can I help her? Like, she was getting much older. She's starting to get to an age where, she might die soon. She ended up to be 95 at the end of the film, but it was like 100-day documentary about their life together. And in the beginning of it, you can see like her legs are swollen. She can't really move. Her mind is look like it's starting to get dementia. She's forgetting things. She
Right.
can't
Right.
really,
Right.
all of that. But what they did was that he was trying to figure out how can I get her to be, have more fun, have more joy. And he did 100 days of like, bringing her to places that she would love, and started like an Instagram account with her and started doing daily live videos with her. And then
Awesome.
she would start
Cool.
interacting with
Right.
people on the live
Right.
feed. And
Right.
then you can see the progress. Her mind started going faster.
Sure.
And then the funny thing is that her hair roots started getting darker.
That's great.
And then they would do like funny things. They would dress up on the things. But you can see like she's
Yeah.
getting better, she's getting faster, and she's moving better. Her legs are getting better. Like her mind is working faster. So the interactions
Sure.
with people are so pivotal.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people feel that, like, oh, Bill talks too much, but some of them don't talk really much at all. As a consequence, when you do talk to them, they're so boring. They're so no, they're so uninteresting.
Yeah,
They can only talk about minutia. You
yeah,
know, I mean, at the garden party we were at, I mean, that was certainly true.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I
you didn't have like these mind blowing philosophical
no,
conversations at the
no.
garden party.
Well, I had one really interesting kind of political conversation with one of the guys I like the most, who is 92. Now that you mention it,
Yeah,
and I told him, in fact, I had to say, at one point during the conversation, I put my hand on his forearm. I said, I got to tell you this. Okay. I said, I, I really enjoy talking with you, but you remind me of my father so much.
Oh,
As my
wow.
Yeah, because this guy was a World War II veteran, as was my
Yeah.
father,
Yeah.
and so we were talking about like this guy was in two down planes. Okay, and
Wow.
he survived those,
Wow.
but I also so one of the things is you have my father's sense of humor. He's
Mm.
92 and he's very funny. He's way as liberal as I am. He makes me look like a right wing loony. I mean, he's so liberal and he's nice.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because people say, well, when you get older, you get more religious because you're
Yeah.
afraid of dying, and you get more conservative with everything.
Yeah.
Nah, nah, nah. He's just the opposite.
Really?
I'm the
Oh my
opposite.
God. Let's get him on the podcast.
Yeah, really, I'm the opposite. But by the way, he was a professor at SUNY Farmingdale, and he taught of all things. If you looked at him, you go, "Oh, this is not a professor type," okay?
Hmm.
But he taught computer languages, okay? Like,
Mm.
Fortran and C++ and things like that. He's no
Hmm.
dummy. He's no
Yeah.
dummy.
Yeah.
And students, I had my now deceased niece, her son had him as a teacher. And
Oh, yeah.
the students loved him
Yeah.
because he's a cool guy. He looks like he's going to be a cranky old goat.
Yeah.
He's got a sense of fun, and
Yeah.
he's who he is. He's who he is. He's an
I love
incredible.
that. I love it. He's who he is, and he like that is unapologetically
Yeah, yeah.
himself.
I mean, he's totally authentic, that's what he likes in me. Is when he talks to me, he says, as far as he says, you're the real deal. Is when I talk to you, it's like,
Hmm.
there's no pretense, there's no
Yeah.
baloney,
Yeah. Yeah.
and plus, we're also on the same page philosophically and politically, which just makes it. He doesn't have to worry about what he says when he talks to me, and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not worried that he's gonna offend you,
Sure.
or you're gonna be upset by the liberal things that's coming out of his mouth. All
Yeah,
of that.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing.
Yes.
Did you have something that you wanted to specifically speak to me about?
Yeah, I want to know how your birthday is. I want to
Okay.
know where you got this lovely shirt of yours, which is going to be our, I think, 18th shirt.
Well, now it was so funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
What I guess the last time I apparently wore the same shirt twice,
Yeah.
and
Did you see my little JPEG image where I put it on top of each other?
yes, I did, and I didn't bother responding to it because I figured I'd rather talk to you in person. Uh,
Did
Let me
you,
explain to
did
you.
you see my evidence?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you were here, I think the one thing I thought I was going to show you, but I don't think I never showed you. Did I show you my closet with the Aloha shirts? Okay.
No, we missed the whole shirt.
And you were
My
up here.
closet.
You were up here. I was showing you pictures and stuff instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have it set up, especially when we started doing the podcast.
Hmm.
I used to only have two sections. Well, now I got three. And so the one on the left side is every time I wear a shirt for one of these podcasts, I put it in that section.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, in the what's the oh, and then and what I did was I had the second section were shirts that I wore last season. Okay.
Oh,
I
okay.
said, okay, what I've been doing is I've been wearing shirts. The shirts I wore last season, I've been starting with them on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Well, at any rate, to make a long story short, I put the shirt in the wrong section.
Ah.
Therefore, I wound up, uh, you know, wearing it twice, and I just never realized it. So I did a quick reshuffling of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Hmm.
I have a whole section,
Hmm.
about easily 100 shirts that are on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Okay, and in fact, we went out to dinner on was it Monday night, Tuesday night, and I wore one of my silk shirts that I hadn't worn in a long time.
Hmm.
So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get into the shirts that I didn't wear last season. I want
Hmm.
to wear them this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm being scrupulous about keeping the shirts that I wear for these separate from the other ones. So,
I mean, I should take a screenshot of our
really,
shirt
really.
and then send it to you. Be like, okay, here's all a little like a grid of all the shirts that we have so far,
I know, but
right?
it's hey, it's fun, you know.
No, I think it's funny. And when you came on, I was like, that shirt looks familiar because like I'm looking at these podcasts and editing, so I'm like staring at those shirts that you're wearing, and then like my outfits too, like every single time. So I was like, that looks familiar. And it's funny, it was the first one that we did. I think it was number one, the shirt that you wore.
Right. Well, you know that the part of it too is I think I told you that one of my wife's friends always thinks that I'm wearing the same shirt.
Hmm.
No, they're different shirts,
Yeah,
but the colors are. I mean, the colors are so they're vivid, they're rich,
yeah,
and they're. But you know, so after a while, to people who don't really, I guess, see them all the time, they go, "It must be the same shirt," you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, no,
But
you're talking to like a surface pattern designer, so I can look at your shirt and be like,
yeah, hey, no question
like
about
this one I know I've never seen before.
yeah, and it's strange. Okay, so it's got this big burgundy patch here, but then it's
Yeah.
all flowers and you know.
So is it all flowers just on one side or it mixed in later?
Well, they're in the back. They're in the back. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's funny. I always get comments on these shirts when I wear them. In fact, you know, it's funny how people they're just not used to seeing these kinds of colors on a man usually,
Yeah.
and I assume that they can they realize I'm a flaming heterosexual, so it's not that I'm a flamboyant gay dresser, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
However, however, my wife will tell you there is nothing pretty much I will not wear. It's
Mhm.
as wild, as flamboyant. I think I always tell her, I said, you know, I would have made a great gay, you know, if
Mhm. Mhm.
because I like a lot of the things the gays do, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
film, theater, you know,
Mhm.
literature, stuff like that. I like wearing, you know, flashy, loud clothing, you know, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You'll be called what they call like a metrosexual, where you you like to dress
Yeah,
nicely.
and you know, I don't have a problem with that. I really
Yeah.
don't.
Hmm.
So it's one of those, you know, but a lot of people do, unfortunately,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So,
Where did you get the shirt?
you know, I'm at a point now when you ask me that, I no longer can honestly
Mm.
remember. Certain
Mm.
shirts I definitely remember,
Oh,
but
okay.
so many of them, I mean, again, I've gotten them in different islands around the world, different
Okay.
tropical places. Some I bought online from Hawaii because,
Hmm.
like a lot of my Jams World shirts, which this is a Jams World shirt, I buy, I send for them every once in a while. I say, oh, I want four more new shirts, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So, but now I've stopped. I stopped buying shirts 2 or 3 years ago. What I funny, I stopped at 164 or five,
Hmm.
and my wife, I, I was shocked. For one of my birthdays, she bought me four more. I never
Oh.
thought she'd ever buy me, you know, a flowered shirt, thinking,
Uh-huh.
you know, she knows I have a whole bunch, you know.
Or she's tired of looking at them now.
No, not even that. I can't say that because she's another one, you know. The only thing she'll say to me is, "Well, you know, I think you have so many stuff in your closet that, you know, they're wrinkling each other."
Mm,
You
mhm,
know.
mhm.
So like the other night on Tuesday, I had a shirt on. She goes, "Well, I think it looks wrinkly," and it was rayon. I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, fine." And my silk shirts withstand wrinkling much better than my other rayons do. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it does. But at any rate, so
Yeah.
anything else? I have a couple things I could talk about. Um, um, I'll tell you what happened before this podcast.
Yeah.
The disgusting right wing extremist loony Supreme Court. They should be drawn and quartered. All those the Republicans on that right wing. They should be just. They're a
Mhm,
disgrace to this country. A
mhm,
disgrace. They just knocked down the New York state gun laws where they said no, you need a permit to carry a handgun, and only if you are in a special occupation, like my uncle. He worked for Con Ed, and he used to go into a lot of rough places, and he had a permit to carry because you know he needed to protect himself.
mhm.
Now, any idiot in New York can get a handgun and carry it open carry. In other words, you
What?
can, yeah, no,
Really?
no, yeah, yeah. And so between what they're doing with Roe v. Wade, what they're
Mhm,
doing, they just also pull this crap about, oh, well, certain schools can get money from taxpayer money, private schools or parochial schools. So they're slowly but surely getting rid of the separation of church and state. But here's
mm,
the problem: the
mhm.
founding fathers were so much smarter than these assholes on the Supreme Court. You have no idea. I mean, I've always thought. Clarence Thomas was an idiot. Okay,
Mhm.
Gorsuch and Kavanaugh as lawyers, they really were not top shelf lawyers. They were like mediocrities. Okay, so so the bottom line is, as far as a lot of my lawyer friends have told me, and of course uh, Amy something Barrett, she's just a two-legged baby incubator for the Catholic Church. She had 7 kids.
Mhm.
She was popping them out. She was a
Mhm.
good Catholic. No birth control, just get more kids for the Catholics to
Mhm.
indoctrinate.
That's like how Orthodox Jews are also
Yeah,
the ones.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, the quickest way to increase the population in any religion is to breed them. It's the
Yeah.
fastest
Yeah.
way. It's a lot cheaper than converting them. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
You don't have to go door to door, saying, "Hey, Jesus Christ is the light. Get on
Mhm.
board." And they're going, "Please give me a break."
Mhm. Mhm.
So don't get me started on the religion. But
Yeah.
but the fact is that I've always said that the right wingers in this country, mostly the conservative Republicans, they've been killing this country slowly but surely for 50 years. It's been they played the long game, and now they've finally won. That one thing about uh, they'll do they'll they'll vote for anyone who got like that's why they voted for Trump. They knew he was a lying, cheating, thieving weasel. They knew
Mhm.
he was a sexual predator. They knew
Mhm.
he was mentally ill. But
Mhm.
but they also knew, like Ronald Reagan was, he was a useful idiot. That Trump was a
Yeah.
useful
Yeah.
idiot. We
Mhm.
can use him to get what they want, and they
Yeah.
got what they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
I mean, that's the only reason why those kinds of people would be elected to be president.
yeah, but as the good news about Trump is he was willfully ignorant to absurdly stupid. Okay,
Mhm.
and which made him a useful idiot for the really most disgusting anti-democratic lump of garbage in this country. That's uh, the modern historian Christopher Browning, who did a book on the Weimar Republic, which was the precursor really of Nazi Germany and stuff. He talked about Mitch McConnell, and he called
Mhm.
Mitch McConnell, quote, the grave digger of democracy, unquote. Never
Mhm.
was a phrase more aptly created. Because I mean, the thing about McConnell as opposed to Trump is McConnell is in fact not only he's intelligent, certainly brighter than Trump,
Mhm.
certainly more Machiavellian and cunning than Trump, and as
Uh-oh.
a consequence, he has ultimately done more damage because
Mhm.
than Trump in a lot of ways. Okay, I mean, Trump is a symptom of this sick, diseased country.
Yeah.
Because he preached race, he let racism out of the bottle, xenophobia out of the bottle, gay stuff out of the so I'm at a point now that just thinking, well, the country that I grew up in is pretty much dead.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not totally dead yet, but if they don't do something with before the next election, and a scumbag like Trump, look at this guy. I don't know if you watch the hearings, okay, uh, but this guy Bowers, I think his name was. He's all about my religion, my faith. I couldn't do something that was fraud. But meanwhile, he says afterwards, well, but if Trump ran again, I'd still vote for him. And I'm thinking, how fucking stupid can you be?
Mhm.
How
Mhm.
willfully ignorant you would vote for this criminal, this
Mhm.
treasonous scumbag?
Mhm.
Well, because he did some great things before the year or so before COVID kicked in. And I'm thinking, no, no, not good enough. The guy's a traitor to this country. He's a
Mhm.
total villain, and you're going to vote for him. This is why the Republicans are scum.
Mhm.
That's why they're scum. And any of you out there who ever watch or listen to this, yes, if you're a Republican, you're as willfully ignorant, absurdly stupid, and as scummy as Trump is, and you shouldn't be allowed to breed. Number one, okay, that's number one, and probably you shouldn't be allowed to breathe either because you're too fucking stupid to live. Really. It's an outrage. It's an
Mhm.
outrage. And by the way, I'm in a good mood. just, so, just so you know.
Just so you know,
No, I think what it is too. I've
this
got,
is the State of the Union today.
what it is. I was watching a special on George Carlin, and uh, I'm more like him than I thought because he felt he knew that the world was really like there's really no point. God doesn't exist. Religion's a lot of shit. Things like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he goes, I really don't care about really what's going on.
Is
You
he
know,
the comedian?
yeah, he's been dead a number of years,
Yeah, yeah.
but he was just brilliant, brilliant in a lot of ways. But he
Hmm.
says, I just don't care about most of the stuff that goes on. I don't care about natural disasters. As far as he was concerned, it was a giant shit show,
Hmm.
and it could be very entertaining as long as you didn't take it seriously. You
Yeah,
know, and I
yeah,
think that this is part of the thing. I mean, I
yeah,
have never taken certain things very seriously.
yeah.
As consequently, like I don't get when people do stupid stuff.
Hmm.
Like I think I told you that everybody has an opinion, okay, and most of the time they're so uh, wacky. You know, I just don't. I tolerate their opinions, but I don't
Yeah,
respect their opinions.
yeah, yeah.
And anytime I'm in a position of control, which I am,
Hmm.
uh, in certain areas of my life, I just go, well, you know what? I have the authority and the power, and you don't. So you can take your right wing loony opinion, shove it up your ass.
You
We're
can
gonna
shove it.
shove it up your ass, and you can yell and you can scream and you can have demonstrations. And I'm going. I'll still say you're an asshole. Fuck you. And that's basically where I'm at.
So tell us how you really feel, Captain
Ah,
Schiavo.
like I said, yeah. And that's another thing. Okay, now this is going to breed me into what I really wanted to talk to you.
Yeah.
I didn't get this attitude, you know, off the shelf. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I didn't go into say, oh yeah, I want to buy this attitude. Uh,
By this attitude.
yeah, yeah, I like it. I want to buy it. I'll take it. Like the old
How
joke.
did you adopt this attitude?
Well, I'm going to tell you what it was, among other things. I learned early on to be rebellious and not listen to horse shit.
Hmm.
I
When?
had a
When?
well, I'm going to tell you when I was very, very young, and I was a really nice, sweet kid, but there were certain things that just never resonated with me. Okay, and it started with religion. Okay, and
Hmm.
then when my mother got more and more, how shall I say, uh, overly zealous with her discipline of me,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just said, "Ah, I love you, but you know what? Go fuck yourself. You may be my mother." Yeah, I didn't say it quite that way, but you got the message.
Hmm.
Basically, yeah, you may be my mother, but
Hmm.
I'm now at a point where I have my own mind, and
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you what I think, and it's not going to be what you think, and
Hmm.
you're not going to persuade. So let me go back to the church thing. I remember going into, and I'm leading up to something because it has to do with why I educated kids the way I educated them,
Hmm.
and what my methodology was. And that was so I go to this big church. It was one of those big old, like almost looked like a cathedral in Europe. It was a big, humongous church, and
Hmm.
we would go. And then, of course, at the Catholic Mass, you go into the Catholic Mass, and there's a part that's called the offertory, where, because remember them doing the sacrifice of the mass and making believe that this little cracker is the body and blood of Christ, right? Which you're
So
supposed
you
to
want to
believe.
be so you want to be accountable.
No, yeah, whatever, exactly. So, I mean, if you really believe it, you're accountable, right?
You're accountable.
But
Aren't you drinking the blood of
yeah, yeah,
Christ
yeah, but see,
too?
you have to understand that if you study comparative religion, okay, which I have, I mean, most religions have that, that you quote eat the God unquote, because
Hmm.
what you're doing is saying I'm ingesting this my God because I want all the characteristics that
Of him.
God has. Now, it's the same reason why cannibals eat their grandmother. They'll eat their grandmothers. They'll also eat their enemies because they want to, like with the when it comes to family members, they want to ingest them because they want them to be a part of them forever, right?
Mm.
And then for when warriors used to eat their enemies was because they wanted to ingest they said, well, my enemy was my enemy, but he was a fierce fighter,
He was strong.
strong, exactly. So there are the in other words, and of course we have it in even when in modern times when we talk about health, like diets and things like that. They'll say, well, we are what we eat. So if we eat well, we're going to be
Hmm.
healthier and this. But if we eat
Hmm.
poorly, I mean, if we're going
Hmm.
to eat shit, we're going to feel shitty and things like that, right?
Hmm.
I'm not going to apologize for my foul language because I'm so upset with the Supreme Court. It's either that or I start taking the guns they're going to allow me to have and start shooting at their heads. But I don't. So so anyway, but I'll never forget it. it was so still vivid in my mind. They're ringing the bells for the offertory. Okay, all the boys are ringing the bells, and the priest is doing his mumbo jumbo and stuff, right? So I said, "Mommy, why are they ringing bells? Why are they ringing those bells?" And she looks. Now this is where mothers and parents go awry because the kids take things literally. I think I mentioned it one time that
Mm-hmm.
about you never want to tell your kids. You say, well, don't let me catch you taking those stealing those cookies out of the cookie jar.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for dessert. And so here's what the kid hears. I can steal them as long as I don't get caught. That's what they
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing is she says, well, I said, well, why are they ringing the bells? She says, I'll never forget it because God is coming. God is coming. So what do I do? We were toward the front of the church. I'm looking back over my shoulder at the front doors. I figured, okay, when the bells stop, you'll probably come walking in. Well, of course, he never came walking in. All right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I realized, okay, well, that's a load of shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first thing.
You're like, where is he? You said that
Yeah.
he's coming.
And I will also say this that all through my life, when I was dragged to church every Sunday, like most kids are, I had no emotional reaction to it. I was there under duress. I was there because my parents, my mother would say, "Get dressed, get it, take a shower, get dressed, comb your hair, and out the door." They took me right. So I just never felt it. I know some people feel, oh, God's, I feel this presence. Nah, I don't feel that at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got older and older, I started to really hone my crap detector. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I got older and I started to realize that around the holidays, the Santa Claus was either my Uncle Tom in a terrible beard or my Uncle Sam or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I started to realize, okay, they're trying to play a game on me. I knew that it wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that the Tooth Fairy was my mother,
Yeah.
stuffing quarters under my pillow. Okay,
Yeah.
and I knew that the Easter Bunny was my mother put together Easter baskets of chocolate. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then of course when they started talking to me when they and other adults tried to talk to me about God, I'm going, well, wait a second. All these other mystical beings have been bullshit.
So yeah,
Here,
you're linking it all together.
exactly. Here's another mystical being because they don't know diddly squat about God at all. They've never seen God. They only know what they've been told by their priests and rabbis and things like that. And by the way, I've known a lot of wonderful priests and rabbis, and you know what? They're trying to do what they believe is the right thing, and they believe in all this nonsense. Plus, it's three hots in a cot. They're making a living. That's fine. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Make a living.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to buy into it if I don't want to.
Yeah.
So I've always been very difficult because I've always had a rebellious nature. Okay, and I think what I tried to do going into my education as an instructor, I was trying to make their educations relevant to their lives. Okay, and here's what a lot of kids will say to you: why do I need to take algebra? Why do I have to go to take a course in physics or calculus, or why am I taking these courses? And I could argue that you probably, to get through this life, you don't need to unless you want to. Uh, I think some of the smartest people I've ever met and ever known were, I think I used the word in another podcast, were autodidacts. They were self-taught. They were self-taught because they were read widely, they read
Mm-hmm.
deeply, but
Mm-hmm.
also, here's a classic. I remember having a couple of, how shall I say, contentious conversations with the principal over the years, or different principals over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times, parents would say, "Look, uh, I want my kid to be out of school for at least a month. We're traveling to Australia, whatever." And and the principal would say, and the kids' teachers would say, "Oh, they're going to be a month's worth of instruction," and I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, bullshit. That instruction is not important. They're going to learn more by spending a month in Australia or traveling around the world than they're going to learn in your stupid, boring classroom. Period. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens in this life is that uh, perception is reality, number one. And when you perceive the real world and how it works and how other people are different from you and how
Mm-hmm.
other cities look, and what you start to do is get a much wider, more tolerant view of the world and of your place in it. Okay.
Yep.
And so and all of a sudden, like when I was teaching them, one of the things I I asked more questions. Now, it's not strictly the Socratic method is you ask questions about certain kinds of things, and then based upon the answers, you then say, well, wait, how is that right? Is it wrong? Is it true? No. But the questions were always really about what I wanted to know what they perceived as their reality in
Hmm.
their lives
Hmm.
at the time I was teaching them.
How it affects them.
Yeah, in other words, what are they seeing? What do they feel? My questions usually would involve first, I would ask them, well, what do you feel about this? How do
Hmm.
you feel about this? Okay,
Hmm.
whatever
Hmm.
the topic was. And kids would come out with their, Sally, how do you feel about this? Blah, 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 blah. And Frankie, how do you feel about it? And they talk about it back and forth. They
Hmm.
talk among
Hmm.
themselves, they'll talk with me. And then I would use well, okay, so that's feelings. Well, what do you think about this? Because
Hmm.
thinking and feeling are really kind of sometimes way more different than you'd like them to be. Okay.
Hmm.
So it was always coming from a lot of the a lot of the information was coming from them and each other. Okay, in my classrooms. Now I would fill in the blanks. They'd say, well, here's what you say this, but here's what the scientists say, or here's what the historians say. So I would educate them in by responding to their questions or the content or perception of the world as they saw it.
Hmm.
That's not what most teachers do. Most
No,
teachers,
not at all.
right? They'll go in and they're
Yeah.
going to say, "Here, you got to learn this and you got to learn that."
Yeah. Number one, they don't care about how you feel.
Yeah, feeling, well, I mean, look, I have to say, I mean, I knew so many terrible teachers that it was sad. But again, they had every right and legal freedom to do what they felt was the in the what they needed to do to instruct kids.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had read some books, a lot of books early on, and I found that some of my natural instincts about what a teacher should be were supported by these books.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I always told myself when I walked into a classroom, and this made it easy for me, okay?
Hmm.
I don't know that young teachers think about it. I thought back to my high school days and
Hmm.
I said, okay, what were the things I liked about my favorite teachers and what were the things I didn't like about my favorite teachers and or my really terrible teachers?
Hmm.
Because then it's like the doctor's joke. Gee, doc, it hurts when I do this.
Hmm.
Doctor says, well, don't do that.
Yeah.
It won't hurt anymore. So
Hmm.
if I didn't do the stuff that I thought were
Yeah.
bad stuff, bad habits, bad techniques that the teachers did, I was
Hmm.
going to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
And so what I found out that most teachers were really more about discipline than love. They were
Hmm.
more about junk content. They would say, "Oh,
Hmm.
content. We have to know this. We have to know that." Okay.
Hmm.
And what I learned was that really I could learn a lot more on my own reading these various books that I read than I was learning from them. Why? Because they had this bizarre notion that they would only teach certain things at certain grade levels. Okay.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
my readings were not at a grade level. My readings were many, many years ahead of grade level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and again, I was lucky. I was a reader and I was an intellectually curious. A lot of kids are not. A lot of guys are not. They just want to play, go out and play ball. They don't
Yeah.
want to read. I could play ball and I could still read. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was very lucky. And by the way, I wasn't the only young person in my high school who was like that.
Hmm.
And I certainly wasn't. I think I'd known a few other teachers that were that way. But I think that in the quest to make uh, young people smarter and wiser, okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
that I needed them to understand that it's like when people go to a psychiatrist. I think I said it. I don't know. I said it the other time, but people go into a psychiatrist and that, gee, doc, yeah, here's why I think I'm crazy. And when the psychiatrist said, why do you think you're crazy? well, because of this and because of that, and the psychiatrist just said, "No, you don't understand. You're perfectly sane. You're perfectly okay. It's the society in which you live that's nuts."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, for example, if I went in to a psychiatrist and said, "Gee, doc, I'm really fearful. I'm really angry, and well, what's the matter?" I said, "Well, everybody seems to want a gun, and the government seems to be preaching more guns, more guns, more guns. I must be nuts. There must be something wrong with me." And our good shrink would say, "Oh, no, no, no. You're on the right track. They're nuts. They're
Mm.
gun crazy. You're not." You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the idea was for me to say, okay, how do I get my students to develop their crap detectors from their teachers, from their parents,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I thought I did a pretty good job of that because they would see how I was their parents' worst nightmare. I really
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
No, 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 I'm not religious. No, I think sex is great. You know,
No, God doesn't exist.
oh, God doesn't exist. They're lying, and they tell you about God to, just like they told you about Santa Claus. They're trying to
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want you
That's
to
like
shut
telling
up.
a kid, there's no Santa Claus and there's no Easter Bunny. And
Yeah,
like everybody would gasp, like,
sure.
you told your kids that? Like, how can you tell them that?
But
Like,
how I make students laugh. I tell them, yeah, Santa Claus is baloney. The Tooth Fairy was baloney. God's baloney. But I'm a little soft on the Easter Bunny because I'm afraid my supply of chocolate will run out. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
if the Easter Bunny's coming up with the chocolate, maybe I just have to be a little nicer about the Easter Bunny.
Because at least I'm getting some, chocolate.
Sure.